Welcome to the basics of sailing and racing. Getting started involves learning about sailboats and a number of skills needed for sailing. In this instructional video, there are 4 lessons. By the end of these lessons, you will be able to identify the parts of a sailboat, recall basic boater safety rules, perform actions to demonstrate racing concepts, and utilize sailing resources efficiently. Most likely, you can look at these sailboats and identify the sails, masts, and hull. Take a closer look. How many other parts can you name? In just a few moments, you will be able to identify the key components of a sailboat using the correct names. You will also learn about useful nautical terminology. Fill in your sailboat diagram during Lesson 1. This diagram can be found in the handout that accompanies this video. Lesson 1. Identify the parts of a sailboat. There are certain nautical terms commonly used on sailboats to identify directions. Aft and after both refer to the rear portion of the boat. Conversely, fore and forward refer to the front portion of the boat. When facing the front of the boat, the left-hand side of the boat is the port side. The right-hand side of the boat is the starboard side. Here's an easy trick to remember. Port. It has the same number of letters as the word left. Ropes used in conjunction with sailing are called sheets, lines, and halyards according to their specific function. They operate the sails that are collectively known as the rigging. A sailboat's course or direction of travel is known as its tack. However, tack is also the term used to describe the action of changing direction, as in, the captain was forced to tack starboard to avoid the rock jetty. Pictured here is the hull. The hull is simply the outside, floating structure of the sailboat. It does not include the masts, sails, or rigging. Topside refers to the outside edge of the hull that is visible above the waterline. The deck is the flat surface that serves as a floor. The deck on this sailboat is easy to identify by its 3 occupants. The foredeck is the portion of the deck located at the front end of the sailboat. Incidentally, the forward portion's proper name is the bow, and it is easily identified by its pointed shape. Running around the topmost edge of the hull is the life rail. The purpose of this wire or metal railing is to prevent passengers from falling overboard and to provide an accessible handle during rough sailing. The bow is home to a device known as the pulpit. This is the section of the life rail located at the farthest forward section of the boat. The pulpit may be taller than the other sections of life rail to prevent a sailor from falling overboard. This is a perfect spot from which to observe marine life or watch for navigational hazards. At the opposite end of the sailboat from the bow is the stern. Unlike the bow, the stern terminates in a flat surface. The purpose of a sail is to trap the wind which propels the boat. If the sail is not actively trapping wind, it acts like the wing of an aircraft. The front vertical edge of a sail is located along the length of the mast. It is called the luff, and the back vertical edge is called the leech. The foot of the sail is the bottom horizontal edge. The tack is the non-moving corner of the sail, while the clew is the free-moving corner of the sail. All sails have metal rings through which line is passed for securing and maneuvering the sail. Notice that there are two sails on this boat. The largest and primary sail is called the mainsail. In this instance, it can be easily identified by the red flag and number 4. The smaller sail is called the jib, and it is situated on the foredeck. Remember, the foredeck is toward the front of the boat. Sometimes, the jib is replaced or accompanied by a sail called the spinnaker. The orange sailboat seen here has a white mainsail, yellow jib, and green and yellow spinnakers. Spinnakers are usually brightly colored and designed to catch wind and promote speed. The horizontal and vertical poles seen here are spars. A spar is a sturdy round post that holds a sail and its rigging. Masts and booms are each a different type of spar. The largest centrally placed mast which supports the mainsail is the mainmast. Many sailboats have only one mast. The uppermost portion of the mainmast is the masthead. 3-, 4-, and aft masts are visible on this Coast Guard ship. Any mast or sail located along the center line extending from the bow to the stern falls into this category. The horizontal spar attached to the lower portion of the mast is called the boom. The boom is capable of side-to-side movement. An outhaul line is used to pull the sail tight along the length of the boom. Additional rigging fixes the bottom edge of the sail to the boom, which controls the movement of the sail. The mast requires structural support. The supporting cable extending from the masthead to either the port or starboard side of the hull is called a shroud. A stay is similar to a shroud in that it provides support to the mast. However, a stay extends from the mast to either the bow or stern. Forestays are attached to the bow, while backstays are attached to the stern. The bracket that anchors a stay to the hull is called a chain plate. A spreader is used to prevent lines from becoming tangled. This apparatus is a specially designed piece which is placed between two lines. The jib boom is the spar protruding from the bow of a sailboat. The lower edge of the jib is fastened to the jib boom. Even though the jib shown here is stowed, the lower edge is still fixed to the jib boom. This handy gadget is a winch. The removable handle can be used on any winch. Winches are cranked by hand to coil or release the rigging lines that control the sails. This sailor is cranking the winch by hand using the handle. The winch can also be spun by hand without the handle. The helm is often thought of as the large wagon wheel steering mechanism on the deck of a pirate ship. In reality, the term helm refers to the complete steering system including the tiller or wheel, the rudder, and any connecting parts. The rudder is the large single blade shown here. It is located at the stern of the boat and extends below the waterline. The rudder is turned from side to side by either a tiller or wheel. Turning the rudder changes the tack of the boat. And this is the tiller, with its rudder stowed in the upward position. The tiller is simply the top side handle used to turn the rudder on sailboats without a wheel. The tiller turns the opposite direction from the rudder. An infrequently seen but important part of a sailboat's structure and balance is the keel. This vertical projection is found underneath the hull. This concludes your sailboat tour. If you missed any of the terms necessary to complete your diagram, you can find them in this lesson. Pause the video if you need more time to work. Now let's see if you remember some of the key terminology we just discussed. Look at the sailboat pictured and identify the port side. Here's a hint. The port side is the left side of the boat when facing the front. What is the opposite direction from port? Is it A, aft, B, fore, C, starboard, or D, stern? The correct answer is C, starboard. Pictured here is the front of the sailboat. What is its nautical name? Is it A, bow, B, hull, C, keel, or D, stern? The correct answer is A, bow. What is the farthest aft section of the sailboat called? Is it A, keel, B, rudder, C, stay, or D, stern? The correct answer is D, stern. What is the name of the vertical spar shown here? Is it A, boom, B, jib boom, C, mast, or D, tiller? The correct answer is C, mast. What is the name of the horizontal spar connected to it? If you said boom, you're correct. Do you remember the name of the green and yellow sail seen in this picture? If you said spinnaker, you're correct. What is the name of the white sail? If you said mainsail, you're correct. Now that you can find your way around a sailboat, it's time to practice boater safety. Lesson 2. Recall basic boater safety rules. A good sailor should always be prepared and plan ahead to help avoid emergencies. Most of safe sailing is just common sense, but here are a few general rules to remember. Know how to swim. You should feel at ease in the water because sailboats do tip over, and depending on the boat size, some more frequently than others. Get a marine weather forecast before sailing. Always listen to a marine weather forecast and plan accordingly. Never sail alone. You can sail alone in a boat as long as there are people to help if something goes wrong. Bring and wear life jackets. U.S. Coast Guard regulations require a life jacket for each person in a boat. These should be easily accessible in case needed. If sailing alone or in inclement weather, the life jackets should also be worn. Leave the alcohol on shore. Drinking and operating equipment is just as dangerous at sea as it is on the roads. Violators with a blood alcohol content of 0.08% or higher may be subject to civil and criminal penalties, 1 year imprisonment, or both. According to the U.S. Coast Guard, alcohol use is a leading factor in fatal boating accidents. Nearly 20% of reported fatalities. Signal for help if you need it. Other sailors and the U.S. Coast Guard will help but cannot always tell when there is trouble. Distress signals should only be used when necessary. The U.S. Coast Guard requires 3 handheld flares be on board each watercraft. Within sight of another person, you can signal distress by standing up and slowly raising and lowering your arms. In sailing, weather is the most important factor determining a safe passage, an enjoyable day, or a successful race. For sailing, the most important meteorological factor is wind, and especially its small-scale characteristics. Try learning to determine the wind direction using your ears. As this sailor is doing, let the wind blow onto your back, then slowly turn your head left to right and back again until you feel it equalize over your ears. Once you find that point, you now know the wind direction, and using this method, you can understand the wind more without having to use your eyes. Be sure to learn about any tides in your area, as in some places, this can have almost as strong an effect as the wind. Later in this program, we'll take a look at some of the latest apps and other resources to help you set sail safely. Now that you've learned about some general safety rules, let's take a look at the top 10 basic sailing safety rules. 1. Be sure you understand the rules of the road to avoid collisions with other boats. 2. Ensure that your boat has all federally required safety equipment on board. All sailboats operated in U.S. waters must have the following equipment on board: Coast Guard approved PFDs, or personal flotation devices, for each person aboard, 1 buoyant throwable device, 1 sound signal, and appropriate navigational lights required at night and in areas of restricted visibility. Notice: there are other required equipment for boats of varying sizes. Visit www.sailing.about.com to find more specific information on federally required equipment for recreational sailing. 3. Use a safety checklist. Use a checklist such as the one provided in the handout for this video. This can help you and your guests orient to the boat before heading out. Four. Use a float plan to alert rescuers in an emergency. The Coast Guard has developed a float plan form that can be downloaded along with a boating emergency guide explaining how to use the float plan. Rule number 5. Wear a PFD at appropriate times. Falling off the boat is the leading cause of boating fatalities. Your PFD is one of the 2 most essential pieces of safety equipment. Rule number 6. Use a safety harness tether when sailing alone or sailing in rough weather. This helps ensure you stay on the boat no matter what. Number 7. Learn MOB or man overboard maneuvers. And in case someone does fall overboard, you need to know an effective method for quickly turning the boat around and stopping it beside the person. Eight. Use an AIS or automatic identification system at night or in fog. Rule number 9. Be prepared for cold water. When boating in cold water, or even when only the air is cold, it's particularly critical to take special precautions. Wear layers of clothing of a fabric that retains body warmth and dries rapidly. The outer shell should be both water and windproof. And rule number 10. Learn how to adjust the sails for strong winds in order to stay safe. Now that you've learned our top 10 sailing safety rules, let's see what our sailing experts have to say about sailing etiquette. Maintain a safe speed at all times. Use common sense when assessing the risk of collision. Port tack gives way to starboard tack. If two sailboats are approaching each other and the wind is on a different side of each boat, then sailing rules are that the sailboat which has the wind on the port side must always give right of way to the other. Windward gives way to leeward. If two sailboats are approaching each other and the wind is on the same side of each boat, then sailing rules are that the vessel which is to windward must give the right of way to the vessel which is leeward. If you are at risk of colliding with another boat and all else fails, then agreed sailing rules are that whichever boat has the other boat on its starboard side must yield right of way. Keep close to outer edge when passing through a narrow channel. Non-commercial powerboats usually give way to sailboats unless the sailboat is overtaking it. However, general sailing instructions are also that sailboats should try to stay out of the way of large vessels and ferryboats that may find it hard to slow or change direction, especially in narrow channels. Now that you know the best ways to be safe on the water, let's get ready to set sail. Preparing the boat. Inspect all the standing rigging. Check the lines that raise and control the sails. Put all lines out of their cleats and off their winches, and attach the tiller. Be sure it's properly attached to the deck of the boat, and your sailboat is now ready for you to hoist the sails. If your boat doesn't have some kind of wind direction indicator at the top of the mast, tie a couple of 9-inch pieces of old cassette tape, VHS tape, or oiled yarn to the shrouds. Place them on either side about 4 feet up from the sides of the boat. To sail effectively, you will need to know the apparent direction of the wind. The idea is to have the minimum amount of wind resistance when raising the sails. Do you remember our tip on how to use your ears to check the wind? Secure the bottom front of the mainsail and jib to their respective shackles on the boom and the bow of the boat when you're beginning to hoist the sails. There will be a small line hoisting the sails. Secure the bottom front of the mainsail and jib to their respective shackles on the boom and the bow of the boat. There will be a small line attaching the back of the mainsail to the bottom and its cleat. Pull it hand tight in the cleat. This tightens the foot of the sail. Hoist the mainsail by pulling down on its halyard all the way until it stops. The leading edge of the sail must be tight enough to remove folds, but not so tight as to create vertical creases in the sail. There will be a cleat in the vicinity of the halyard where it comes down from the top of the mast. Cleat the halyard. Using the jib halyard, raise the front sail and cleat the halyard off. Both sails will be luffing freely now. Sails are always raised, mainsail first, then the jib, because it's easier to point the boat into the wind using the main. Sailboats cannot sail directly into the wind. As shown below, the red zone in this diagram indicates a no-go zone when under sail. To sail to windward, a sailing vessel must sail about 45 to 50 degrees off the wind and change direction by tacking. Turn the boat to the left or right so it's about 90 degrees off the wind. This is known as a beam reach. Pull on the main sheet until the sail is around 45 degrees away from straight back. This is a safe place for the main while you trim the jib. You will start moving and tilting or heeling away from the wind. A heel of more than 20 degrees usually indicates that you're being overpowered. Releasing the main sheet momentarily will lessen the amount of heel, and eventually you will return to a more comfortable sailing angle of 10 to 15 degrees of heel. Although the mainsail is hoisted first, it is the jib that is trimmed first. There are 2 jib sheets, one for each side of the boat. Pull on the jib sheet on the side away from where the wind is coming from. This is the active sheet, while the other is called the lazy sheet. The jib will form a pocket. Trim the sail until the front edge just stops luffing. Keep your hand on the tiller and stay on course. Let out the main sheet until the front edge just starts to luff, then pull it back just until it stops. If you or the wind hasn't changed direction, this is the most efficient place to set the sails. If anything changes, you have to adjust them in response. You've just entered the world of the sailor, and you'll have to learn to do many things at once, or suffer the consequences. When you're done sailing, it's time to dock your boat. Once you've spotted your slip, slow down as much as you can, but just enough to keep steerage. If you're going too fast, put the boat in reverse to slow it down. Once you've arrived at your slip, your foredeck crew should immediately jump on the side dock to round up the bowline around the dock cleat or lasso the line around the piling. Remember, go easy when learning. Now that you've learned the basics of sailing, you're ready to sail into the wind into a destination. Let's see how much you can remember about sailing etiquette. Which of the following statements is true? Is it A, port tack gives way to starboard tack? Or B, starboard tack gives way to port tack? The correct answer is A, port tack gives way to starboard tack. Which of the following statements is true? A, leeward gives way to windward? Or B, windward gives way to leeward? The correct answer is B, windward gives way to leeward. Let's review some of the federally required safety equipment that must be on board. Sailboats of any size must have the following equipment on board: personal flotation devices for each member on board. Here's a demonstration on how to put on your PFD. One buoyant throwable device must also be present. You can use a life sling or a cushion strap. One sound signal, such as a handheld air horn or an athletic whistle like the one seen here. Appropriate navigational lights required at night and in areas of restricted visibility. Lesson 3. Perform actions to demonstrate racing concepts. An exciting opportunity to practice your boating skills is to participate as crew for a race or regatta. As opposed to cruising or day sailing, racing adds an exciting dynamic to sailing, keeping you on your toes and ready for the next tactical maneuver. This lesson will share with you the basic crew positions on a sailboat, how to perform basic sailing maneuvers, and familiarize you with sailboat racing. There are lots of ways to find crewing opportunities in your area. Reach out to your local sailing association or active yacht club. Often, you do not need to be a member to be crew members for sailing events. When preparing to crew a race, it's important to bring along the right gear. You'll need to dress for the weather, and preferably in layers, as temperatures can vary during the day. Always wear sunscreen. UV rays are enhanced by the reflection from the water, so being sun smart will keep you safe. That includes wearing a hat, sunglasses, and a protective layer of clothing. Unless the captain tells you they have extras on board, plan to bring along your own pair of sailing gloves. You can also bring along your own PFD or personal flotation device as well. Footwear is essential as it will keep your toes from getting caught on cleats or lines and will help with traction on wet or sun-baked boat decks. Here's a tip to keep your skipper happy. Use footwear with non-marking soles. Ask your skipper what they plan to provide to crew in terms of water or snacks. Many skippers provide the basics for their crew members, while others request that you bring what you prefer to eat or drink for the duration of that race. Remember, staying hydrated is important to keep you feeling and performing your best. Just like there are different positions played on a sports team, there are different positions and related tasks for crew members during a race. The positions depend on what type of sailboat you're crewing, but generally include the tactician, who plans the strategy of the race and advises helmsman and crew of needed maneuvers, the helmsman, who steers the sailboat, the main trimmer, who works the traveler and main sheets to keep the mainsails correctly trimmed, the port trimmer, who works the sheets on the port side to keep the jib correctly trimmed, the starboard trimmer, who works the sheet on the starboard side to keep the jib correctly trimmed, the pitman, who works the halyards or other lines, and finally the foredeck, who works the spinnaker pole or whisker pole. Depending on the size of the vessel, each of these positions may be a different person, or several tasks may be completed by the same person. Novice crew members may be assigned less demanding positions until they have enough experience to contribute to other positions. Providing ballast and moving from one side of the sailboat to the other during maneuvers, also called riding the rail, is often the desired position for first-timers. Hoisting the sails is one of the first tasks to get the crew working together. To hoist the mainsail, ensure that all of the sail ties are off, reefing lines are loosened, and the topping lift and traveler are in the correct position. Depending on the vessel, it may be helpful for one person or more than one person to help hoist the mast. When all crew are prepared, the order is given to hoist. The designated crew will begin to pull the main halyard until the winch is needed. Carefully wrapping the main halyard clockwise around the winch and using the winch handle, the last of the mainsail is hoisted and locked into place at the cleat. The main trimmer is then charged in maintaining good sail trim. Once again, the steps are: prepare the sail to hoist, haul in the halyard, use the winch, secure the halyard, and set correct sail trim. Next, it's time to hoist or unfurl the jib. Again, this maneuver depends on what type of vessel you are working on board. Some sailboats will have different jibs depending on the conditions, and the skipper will decide which one to use that day. The needed jib will be attached and hoisted with the jib halyard. Other vessels have only one head sail that is already affixed and attached to the first day with the roller furling. To unfurl the jib, the furling line is released and a trimmer will sheet in on the jib sheet and either the port or starboard side. Once again, the steps are: prepare the jib to unfurl, haul in the jib sheet, use the winch, secure the jib sheet, and trim the jib for your point of sail. When it comes to sailing maneuvers, practice makes perfect. The most common maneuvers are tacking and jibing, which will enable the sailboat to round the marks or points on the race course and to sail efficiently with the available wind. Tacking is the turning the sailboat toward a new point of sail with the bow crossing into the wind. The helmsman will call that a tack is needed. The traditional command is, "Ready about." To prepare for the tack, be sure that you are free of lines and equipment, that the jib sheets are clear and prepared for the maneuver. As you make the tack, the jib will backwind and pull against the active sheet. At this moment, release the jib sheet, letting it out quickly and avoiding snagging a line on anything in the cockpit or foredeck. At the same time, the other trimmer will quickly pull in the jib sheet on the other side. Being quick is essential to avoid the jib being released too far, flapping loose, and losing power. Be sure to stay out of the way of the boom, and move your weight to the other side as the boat comes up into the wind and is momentarily flat on the water. As the turn continues, the boom and mainsail cross the center line and the sail fills on the other side. The main trimmer will adjust the mainsail accordingly to the new point of sail. It's generally a good idea to center the traveler before the tack and readjust it when a new point of sail is established. A jibe is also turning the sailboat toward a different heading, but instead of turning with the wind coming in front of the boat, a jibe means the boat will turn with the wind coming from the rear of the vessel. The maneuver is similar to the tack, but it's a more dangerous maneuver as it causes more pressure to be put on the mast, boom, and rigging. More people have been knocked overboard by jibes than during other sailing maneuvers, so take extra precaution during a jibe. Once again, the steps to tack or jibe are: prepare the jib sheets, center the mainsail, release the active jib sheet. Remember, watch out for the boom. Haul in the opposite jib sheet, use the winch, secure the sheet, and adjust both the main and jib sails to the new point of sail. Now that you know the basic maneuvers that will enable you to sail, change directions, and round marks, you're ready to put your skills to the test in a race. Sailboat races, or regattas, are typically hosted by sailing associations or yacht clubs. They announce their event by publishing a notice of race, or NOR, that gives the details about the race, the rules, which vessels are eligible to enter, start times, scoring methods, and how to sign up. They then issue sailing instructions, or SIs, to all skippers who enter the race. That includes any updated information, race schedule, start-finish area, the course, and any included marks to note within the course, how to check in, and how the start and finish will be configured. It's helpful for crew to also review these materials and be familiar with all this information. Preparing for the start of the race, your skipper will check in with the race committee boat out on the water, reporting their vessel name, sail number, and class in which they intend to race. Classes may include Spinnaker A class, Spinnaker B class, non-Spinnaker, or true cruiser class. Did you identify the Spinnaker? Prior to the start, boats who have checked in will be sailing within the vicinity of the start line, preparing for the start sequence to begin. It is helpful to have the foredeck crew member watching for oncoming boats and warning the skipper of any potential collisions. The start sequence is communicated by the race committee via signal flags and horn blasts. When in doubt, the flags take precedence. At 5 minutes to the start, a horn blast is sounded and the class flag goes up. It's important to know what class flags look like so that you aren't left behind when your fleet starts. It's also important for someone to have a stopwatch who can set it when the 5-minute flag goes up. Keeping accurate time is a key to a good start. At 4 minutes, another horn blasts and the P flag is raised. It's a blue flag with the white square in the middle. It's important to keep an eye on the flags and your watch, as there won't be another signal until 1 minute to start. At the 1 minute until start, there's a long horn blast and the P flag comes down. At this point, the only flag remaining is the class flag. Start is signaled by a horn blast and the lowering of the class flag. Until the start of the race, sailboats aren't allowed over the start line. If boats cross too early, they'll be called back to the start by the race committee boat with the individual recall flag. If many boats are over too early, the race committee may call everyone back to the start with the general recall flag. It's valuable to have at least one crew member paying attention to the race committee boat and any flags that may appear communicating with racers. Once again, the start sequence is 5 minutes to start, class flag up. At 4 minutes to start, P flag up. At 1 minute to start, P flag down. At the start, the class flag comes down. Let's get ready to race. The finish line is an exciting sight for any racer, and a sailboat race ends when the committee boat sounds the horn when your boat crosses the line. Remember, sailing can be learned in a day, but can take a lifetime to master. Racing will give you the opportunity to practice and hone your sailing skills. Now let's review what we've learned. Do you remember the steps to hoist the mainsail? How about the steps to tack or jibe? In this lesson, you've learned about basic crew positions on a sailboat, what you'll need to take with you, how to hoist the sails, how to do a tack or jibe, and other basic sailing maneuvers. It takes practice, but soon these maneuvers will become easy for you to remember. Lesson 4. Utilize sailing resources efficiently. In this lesson, you will learn about websites, mobile apps, and navigation tools to make sailing a breeze. This lesson will also show you several resources you can access from a computer, smartphone, or tablet. At the end of this lesson, see if you can name one resource for each of these 3 topics: weather, tides, and in an earlier lesson, you learned about weather and how it affects sailing. Here are a few resources to help you stay on top of changing weather conditions. The Weather Channel provides applications for many smartphones, tablets, and Windows 8. Visitors to the site can also download and sign up for mobile alerts. Yachtweather.com provides professional weather forecasting and routing services for yachts worldwide, as well as live 24/7 service from marine meteorologists and ship routers. The Marine Weather app provides access to marine forecasts, live buoy data, tides, currents, radar, and sea surface temperatures. It's also available as a web application or a smartphone app. Tides are another important aspect of sailing. Here are some valuable resources to keep you on course. NOAA is able to provide the most accurate and up-to-date information because it is supported by the Center for Operational Oceanographic Products and Services, or COOPS. They provide the national infrastructure, science, and technical expertise to monitor, assess, and distribute tide, current, water levels, and other coastal oceanographic products and services featured by NOAA. U.S. Harbors, Florida provides up-to-date information on tide charts, weather, radar, buoys, and local boating news for Florida's ports, such as St. Petersburg. Mobile Geographics Tides provides information on tides, NOAA tide tables, and high tide charts. There are applications available for both iPhone and Android. Ancient mariners relied on compasses, astrolabes, and charts to help them navigate the sea. Modern technology has replaced many of the navigational tools of yesteryear, and sailors of today have a world full of resources at their fingertips. Sailing Tactician provides pre-regatta tactics to help you analyze the location and plan your course. With the help of Sailing Tactician, you can use your training logs to plan for the race and plot out your winning strategy. The SailPro Marine Navigator uses your smartphone's GPS signal to pinpoint the location of your ship on the map and calculate all the other on-screen indicators. Features also include a nautical GPS navigator, chat, and ship's log. Now that you know some resources that cover tides, weather, and navigation, here are some other valuable resources to help entertain you, improve your racing skills, and help you participate in local sailing events. Sail Magazine is a resource that provides useful information on the sailing way of life. It's available in print, digital edition, blog format, and email notifications. It also includes participation events, contests, and sweepstakes in your local area. This app does it all. Beer Can Racer includes GPS location, compass over ground, course over ground, speed over ground, velocity made good, lift indicator, navigation to the mark, timers, ping, distances are in nautical miles, either meters or feet for short distances, while speed is in the knots. This app also allows storage of 200 marks and supports all 3 latitude and longitude formats and many other race-proven features. Beer Can Racer is available for both iPhone and Android. U.S. Sailing is a website dedicated to leadership, integrity, and improvement for the sport of racing. It features a plethora of information about the sport, including rules, training, and ways to get involved in racing. Let's see if you can remember one resource for each topic mentioned at the beginning of this lesson. Can you name one weather resource? They were Weather Channel, Yacht Weather, and Marine Weather. Can you name one of the tide resources? They were NOAA, U.S. Harbors, and Mobile Geographics. Try to name at least one navigation resource. They were Sailing Tactician and SailPro. Do you remember the 2 additional resources? They were Sail Magazine and Beer Can Racer. Which app did we say could do it all? Is it A, Sail Magazine, or B, Beer Can Racer? The correct answer is B, Beer Can Racer. You learned a few new sailing resources today, as well as some useful information to help you get out there on the water. Take it one step at a time and remember to be safe. Use the handout that accompanies this video as a basic reinforcement guide to help you in your future sailing and even racing adventures. Happy sailing!